Okay, so Tennyson poetry. Okay, firstly, Tithonus. So we're going to do this with a sort of quote, the sort of form, the structure, and the language. That's how we're going to sort of structure this. Okay, so first quote, opening line. The woods decay and fall. Okay, so the form. This reflects the theme of nature in this poem. However, this quote suggests more about the state of the observer than the state of what is actually being observed. He could be referring to the cycle of life through the death of nature and how death is inevitable. Okay, so the structure of it. Okay, so repetition is used here. The woods decay and fall. Repetition is used here to emphasize the death of nature and humanity as well. And this also reflects the weariness, perhaps implying that Tithonus is tired of life. Also, the caesura conveys this tiredness, this sort of tired aspect as well. Death and decay are both the focus at the beginning and the end of the poem, which is quite an interesting structural point. Okay, language of that. It's this idea of nature decaying. It's symbolic for humanity dying, and it implies that, no matter what, life does have to end. So that's what we get from the first line. Okay, so the next quote, it's line 5. It's, me, only cruel immortality consumes. That's over the line as well. Form-wise, it characterises Tithonus to seem very self-centred. Me. It's all about me. So he's a very self-obsessed narrator. Okay, so structurally, the use of enjambment over the line and the awkward syntax is used here to disrupt the flow of the poem and stresses the me, making him seem selfish. Okay, so language. What he's doing is personifying immortality. Me, only cruel immortality consumes. Immortality is consuming, and consuming is a sort of personification. And this makes death seem like a monster, something that will devour Tithonus. Therefore, this reflects how he's afraid of death. Okay, so now we skip over to line 19. It says, and beat me down and marred and wasted me. So, and beat me down and marred and wasted me. So the theme of nature is used again here, as obviously aging is a part of nature. Everything grows older, yet Tithonus wants to separate himself from this norm. Okay, so structurally, so that was the form, structurally, listing is used to emphasize the effects age has on you, and this could be an exaggeration of what happened to him, as this poem seems to also have a selfish theme. Therefore, Tithonus could be sympathizing with his situation. Okay, so language. We have this personification of age, suggesting that weariness of age beats you down and sort of harms you. Okay, so next thing, next quote is line 36. It says, and a bosom beating with a heart renewed. It sets the scene, dawn is approaching as a new day begins, and Tennyson also uses pathetic fallacy here to portray the natural world and how it views dawn. Okay, so structurally wise, this shows time shifting into dawn as a heart renewed. It implies that a new day is beginning and the goddess's youth reincarnates. This contrasts with Tithonus, who is yearning for youthfulness. However, now he's really aged. Alliteration, this is language. Alliteration is used here on bosom beating, to emphasize Tithonus' yearning for youth and health. So that's that quote. And finally, this is line 59. With kisses balmier than half-opened buds of April. Okay, so again with the kind of form, it's the theme of nature is reinforced here due to the reference of spring and new life, which juxtaposes with Tithonus' immortal age. Structure, there's enjambment used here to make this stanza seem like an endless trail of thought from Tithonus, which could reflect his anger at having immortal age. And then, language. There's half-opening buds is symbolic for spring and new life. So yeah, that is Tithonus. Okay, so now we have Godiva by Tennyson. Okay, so first quote, which is lines 3 to 4. There I shaped the city's ancient legend into this. Okay, so form-wise, we have first-person narrator at the beginning of the poem for the first stanza. It's significant as it seems like someone's remembering this heroic event which happened 1,000 summers back, as the quote says. Structurally, the narrator is telling the story at the beginning in past tense, however it is recent, and then there is a flashback into 1,000 summers back. These two voices juxtapose one another. Okay, so language. A metaphor is used to convey how the narrator is shaping the past into the present tense. Okay, so the next quote is, I hung with grooms and porters. Form. This characterizes Tennyson himself in a noble light as someone of his stature. Someone with his stature will mix with working class people. Structure-wise, this act of solidarity links him with Godiva, and the rest of the poem, as the both are achieving unity with their audiences or townspeople. Okay, so language-wise, the informal speech as hung makes the scene quite colloquial, also portraying Tennyson in the noble light. Okay, so the next quote is, that one was line 2. This is 29. Ride you naked through the town. This characterizes the Earl's ruthlessness and how his authority overpowers anyone else's opinion or view. The use of direct speech sort of breathes life into the character and helps to portray the Earl as the antagonist. You know, it's this negative person. Language is very commanding. We have this imperative verb, ride you. Imperative verb, as he is directing Godiva to do this action in order for the tax to be dropped, suggesting that his threatening nature does not vary even for his wife. Yeah. The next quote is, looking like a summer moon half dipped in cloud, which is line 45 to 46. It fits into the theme of the body and the woman as Godiva. It fits into the theme of the body and woman as Godiva is trying to make a stand for what is right and to serve justice to her people through a heroic feminine act. Structurally wise, the use of enjambment helps the passage to flow, as if the third-person narrator was telling this myth as a story. And then language, the use of a simile to describe Godiva as a summer moon, looking like a summer moon, creates an image of vulnerability, purity, and innocence. Cloud makes a scene mystical and fairy tale-like, which conveys that this is a mythical story. His next quote, his eyes were shriveled into darkness. Okay, so this fits into the theme of virtue and sexuality, as Godiva is committing a kind of less moral act. Therefore, the peeper's eyes were shriveled as he was doing an immoral act, and this was his punishment. Structuralized, this immoral act juxtaposes with the selfless, righteous act Godiva is doing. Therefore, God punishes him for trying to disobey the orders and not looking. Okay, so language-wise, the archaic language makes the mythical story seem outdated, even for the Victorian time. However, it is still relatable for people nowadays, and for standing up for what is right. Yeah. Okay, so Ulysses. Yeah. Okay, so the first quote, which is lines 6 to 7. I cannot rest from travel. I will drink life to the lees. Okay, so form conveys the moral message that life without adventure and stories is worthless and mundane. So Ulysses will continue to adventure. Structure, the use of enjambment to portray how his life has been one long journey. Therefore, the flow through the verses represents his endless flow of adventures and how he takes every opportunity he's given. So structure. And then language. I will, an imperative verb, conveys Ulysses' authority and controlling nature. It's ironic as he wants to live a life of freedom. However, in this, he seems to be controlling his own freedom. which is interesting. I, the pronoun, makes him seem selfish, and I is repeated quite a lot in Ulysses. In the next quote, but every hour is saved from that eternal silence, which is line 26 to 27. It represents the theme of unease and discontent, as Ulysses seems to believe that his adventuring escapes him from death. However, he is afraid of the end. Structurally, the enjambment is used to convey Ulysses' flow of life and adventure, as with all sort of the enjambment here. Slight juxtaposition is used, as normally every hour gone is an hour close to death, not saved. This is also ironic. This quote is this quote is ironic, as you can't escape death, and Ulysses is implying that you can through a life of adventure. That way death can't catch you, which is very ironic because it's just not true. Okay, next quote. Most blameless is he, centered in the sphere of common duties. So that's 39 to 40. The narrator has an ironic tone here, implying that his son won't be able to live up to his father's legacy. This characterizes Ulysses to seem selfish, as he believes his son's duties are nothing compared to what he has done. It's arrogance. And structuralized. Memory of his son's inability to succeed his father. Perhaps Ulysses undermines his son and thinks he is weak. The enjambment here is used again. Okay, so the language, blameless. The word blameless could convey that his son has never actually wronged. And common duties is symbolic for how everyday lives are run. So that's that. And then the long day wanes. The long day wanes, the slow moon climbs, the deep moans round with many voices. That's 55 to 56. There's a split between Ulysses' exaltation and his moaning tone. And the moaning tone reminds us of ghosts or people mourning a death. Structurally, the moaning tone is a reflection of ghosts or people mourning a death. Enjambment is used here to emphasize Ulysses' determination about achieving more heroic events before his death. Language. This quote symbolizes death and old age and Ulysses' voyage to be immortal. Personification of the moon makes it seem tired and old due to the verb slow. The slow moon climbs as personification. And the next bit, to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield, which is the last line, at line 70, reinforces the moral message of the poem that to have a life without adventure and stories is worthless and mundane. Okay, so structurally, the use of listing to emphasize Ulysses' determination and adventure. So that's sort of the listing. To strive, to seek, to find. There's parallelism of to strive, to seek. Yield is language. The yield reflects Ulysses' inability to return to his homeland and provide for his family and people. Which is an interesting thing. So that's Ulysses.